Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 9th. You have a big show for you today as well, a huge baseball show breaking down everything from the first 3 or 4 games of the NL and ALDS, as those series each at least tied at 2, or at least tied at 1 apiece. Couple of them up to 1 as the NLDS took place last night. We'll break down all of that. We also have some quarterback news in the NFL. Drake Maye overtakes Jacoby Brissett as the starter. We'll talk about what I think is going on there, whether or not that's a good move. The New Orleans Saints are looking at starting their rookie quarterback in replacement of Derek Carr. We'll talk about that, as well as, of course, speaking of these rookies, we will do our NFL rookie report at the end. So make sure you stick around for that. But before we get into any of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 9th. But like I was saying, we are getting into our big story of the day, and that has to do with the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, Drake Maye. Drake Maye was officially named the starter by head coach Jeremy Maye in New England, overtaking Jacoby Brissett. This is a huge moment for New England. New England, a team that won against the Bengals, looked like a huge win, kind of hasn't been, but they've lost their last 4. They haven't looked their best. And it's not all in Jacoby Brissett. But Drake Maye, the future or the supposed future of the New England Patriots franchise, is scheduled to make his first NFL start on Sunday. We saw him play a little bit at the end of the Jets game, and while it wasn't anything special, it wasn't really bad either. I think, in my opinion, and I've heard a lot of dissenting opinions, I don't have an issue with this move. I think this is a good move. I think it's about time that Drake Maye got in anyway. I don't think the cries were super loud around making Drake Maye get in, but that's just because expectations aren't at their highest they've ever been when we're talking about a team like the New England Patriots, right? Jacoby Brissett led this team perfectly fine, but he didn't do anything to elevate this team. And I don't necessarily think that this switch to Drake Maye is going to immediately elevate this team to doing something special. I'm not in that mindset where I think he's that much better, but I do think that what we saw in the preseason, granted it was the preseason, was pretty clear that Jacoby Brissett wasn't as good as Drake Maye. They both weren't lighting the world on fire, but Drake Maye in the preseason pretty universally was agreed to be the better of the two quarterbacks. You get to a losing locker room, and you start to lose more and more games. You're in a new head coach. Rumors are Jeremy Maye starts to lose the locker room a little bit. It makes it a lot harder to control that locker room when the teammates, everyone that's playing their butts off to win these football games for a bad football team, sees that, hey, there's a better option waiting in the wings. And he held out as long as he could. I think Jacoby Brissett kind of knew what was up. He was going to be the starter for too long. He came in as a bridge quarterback. He did his job. He bridged. We got to let Drake Maye sit for a little bit. He got to get into a little bit of action. He knows the game speed a little bit. He already had his welcome to the NFL moment. And that being said, I don't think he's going to come in on Sunday and everything's going to be smooth, fine, and dandy. There's going to be no issues. They're playing the Texans. The Texans are a good football team. They have a good defense. They have a good pass rush, and we saw it against Caleb Williams. Against a rookie, if they smell blood, they're going to pounce. They're going to attack. They're going to be like sharks in the water there. He needs to be able to handle the pressure, and it's not going to be an easy thing to do. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Patriots, they've got it now that Drake Maye is here. No, this is not something that's going to be an overnight fix. Drake Maye is not going to solve all the issues. But if he can come out there, look solid, grow, get real quality experience as an NFL starter, by next year, by 2 years from now, he will be much better off for it. And that's all we're looking for. That's all we're looking for as football fans or as fans of the Patriots. The Patriots don't have hopes for this season. I don't understand all the people saying wait a whole season. I know that it's worked in the past. I know we look at Patrick Mahomes and, wow, Patrick Mahomes is awesome. It's not because he sat behind Alex Smith. I'm sure that helped. But Patrick Mahomes was going to be Patrick Mahomes year one if the Chiefs let him be Patrick Mahomes. I truly do believe that. I think Alex Smith was great, was a great mentor, and probably would have been a better mentor than Jacoby Brissett has been. But I still think, if he's going to be that generational talent like that, he will show it. 5 games in, 10 games in, 17 games in. He will show it when he gets out there. I also think it's a different situation than a guy like Aaron Rodgers, a guy like Jordan Love, these guys that sat behind future Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Brett Favre, in Aaron Rodgers. I also think it's a different situation than the one down there in Atlanta, where you have a bona fide starter, not a bridge quarterback like Kirk Cousins down there, right? I understand why there's a little bit of pushback on this move, because the idea was for him to sit a little bit. But in no world was he going to sit for the entire season. On the calendar, when we were going through it at the beginning of the season, I scheduled week 9 against the Titans for him to come in. Week 7 against the Texans here, I don't think is that far off. I think this is a fine spot to put him in. And I don't understand why everyone is so against this move, to be completely honest with you. This is one of those things that feels like, hey, we're just pushing it forward, making our guy have, reps. And you can point to the offensive line and say, oh, he's going to get hurt. Oh, he's going to get hurt. He's going to have to play behind most of that offensive line next year anyway. They're not just going to be able to replace an entire offensive line. He needs to be able to get out there, and if he can survive behind a bad offensive line, if he can look solid behind a bad offensive line, imagine what he can do when the offensive line eventually, hopefully, maybe gets shored up a little bit. I have no issues with this move. I'm excited to see what Drake Maye can do. It's not going to be an easy defense. It really is not going to be an easy defense to go up against. But maybe, just maybe, he'll show up, he'll show out, and people can shut up about this, because I think this is the right move. I really do. I don't think he's going to go out and blow everyone's socks off. Jaden Daniels, who's having an amazing season, didn't look incredible his first week. Caleb Williams, who's gotten better every single week, looked awful his first week. I think we're going to see a little closer to Caleb Williams week 1 out of Drake Maye, but I'm still very excited to see him in his first start. And I think this is good for the Patriots. It doesn't make them worse, probably makes them better, and it keeps the locker room together after, one of the vocal leaders in the locker room got put on the commissioner's exempt list in Jabril Peppers. Just another story to take, just another distraction to take away from the off-the-field issues in New England there. I think this is the right move, and I applaud Jerod Mayo for doing it despite a lot of critics. I don't know why there's so many, though. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is it too early to bring Drake Maye in? Would you have done it? How long would you have waited if you thought this was too early? I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about the other quarterback controversy in the NFL having to do with the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr goes down. Is it going to be Jake Haener, who came in for that last start? Is it going to be Spencer Rattler, rookie out of South Carolina? Who is it going to be in New Orleans for the next couple of weeks? We'll talk about that and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 9th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over Drake Maye, what he will bring to the Patriots as the third overall pick, officially gets named the starter for the first time in his career. Could not be more excited for that in New England as they take on CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans next week. In this segment, we're going to transition to the other rookie quarterback that might get their first chance to start in the NFL. No, it's not in Atlanta. It's in Houston. We'll talk about that. Excuse me. It's in New Orleans. We'll talk about that in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 9th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the other quarterback situation. Who takes over for Derek Carr? Derek Carr, who had a hot start to the season, started to cool down a bit. He left in the fourth quarter of the Monday Night Football game this week between the Saints and the Chiefs, and is now out for at least a couple of weeks due to an oblique injury. This is not good for the Saints. I'll put that out there first. This is not good for the Saints. The Saints are a team that are in free fall right now. I'm a little concerned about them. They're a team that needs to get stuff turned around right away, and not having a quarterback is not going to be good for this team at all. It's going to be really, really bad. We got to see a little bit of Jake Haener. He led one drive for the New Orleans Saints. He looked solid, looked fine. He was able to get out of the pocket a little bit, avoid some pass rush, fire a couple lasers down the field. He was accurate. He didn't turn the ball over. He looked solid in a Saints uniform. But also, the Saints drafted rookie quarterback out of South Carolina, Spencer Rattler, in like the fourth or fifth round of this year's draft. Outside of the first round, he was the next quarterback off of the board, and he's a guy that's really interesting for me to take a look at, right? You have a guy in Spencer Rattler that was pretty highly touted. He started a couple games over Caleb Williams when they were both at Oklahoma together, both of them now obviously transferred out of there in the NFL at very different situations and stages with their own teams. But Spencer Rattler has gotten a lot of buzz, has a chance to take over for Derek Carr for the next couple of weeks. And I think it's going to be a very, very interesting decision-making, right? Because you have a guy in Jake Haener who's still young. This is his second year. He was a rookie last year. He looks solid. Maybe he has a better understanding of the offense. But I think Spencer Rattler has higher upside on this one. These two quarterbacks, to me, are very similar. And if you're looking for a quarterback that is just, if I'm the Saints, I'm looking for the quarterback that's just not going to turn the ball over. We haven't seen much action from either of these guys. Before Monday Night Football, Jake Haener had only thrown one pass in his career thus far in the NFL. Spencer Rattler at 0. They're both very, very inexperienced quarterbacks. The other surprise option, and I definitely don't think this is going to happen, but you throw Taysom Hill in there, which definitely not going to happen, but maybe it's something they're overlooking a little bit. Maybe you get a big Taysom Hill package these next couple weeks if he's able to go. But Spencer Rattler, exciting guy out of South Carolina. He has a very boom or bust kind of play style when he was in college. Loves the deep ball. If I'm the Saints, as much as I'd like to see another rookie quarterback out there, as much as I'd like to see another guy, give it a shot, give a young guy a chance, I think I'm leaning towards Jake Haener in this one. What we saw in limited action against the Chiefs was solid. Stat lines aren't going to blow you away here again. It wasn't a very long, very successful drive, but he didn't turn the ball over, right? And that's the most important thing. Against a good Chiefs defense that was giving Derek Carr fits all night long, he showed a little mobility, being able to run away from a big guy in a big guy in Chris Jones. There is a lot to take away from that, a lot of positives to take away from that, and I think that's what needs to be focused on here rather than saying, I wonder who is going to end up being the starter. I think I'm going with the guy that I trusted to be in action behind Derek Carr, right? That's my thinking. That's what I think. Jake Haener, 2 for 7 for 17 yards. Again, nothing crazy. But still, I think he looks solid. A couple of his throws hit receivers in the hand. He had a beautiful throw down the sideline to Chris Olave that was just a little too far on the fourth down. It was a tough catch. Probably wasn't the best read, but it was a beautifully placed ball. I think Jake Haener gets the start here. I think this is a very, very close situation, though, and I think since Derek Carr is going to miss at least 2 weeks, I think we might get both of them a start. One of them gets this week, one of them gets next week. Maybe that's not the best way to run it, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. We'll see, though. This is a very interesting situation because this is a situation where the Saints desperately, desperately need to win games. They are down to 2-3, granted in a division that they're not out of because the rest of it started off slow. You take a look at that NFC South, the Falcons 3-2, the Bucks 3-2, the Saints right behind them at 2-3, but the Saints play the Bucks this week. And if the Bucks are able to win this game, the Saints, I'm not going to say they're out of it because it's still a lot of season left, but falling 2 games back in the division with a loss to one of the teams ahead of you in the division, it's tough. It's a tough look. It's not an easy thing to come back from, especially with how they've been playing these last couple of weeks. Outside of the first 2 weeks of football, they've looked abysmal. They've looked atrocious. The defense was really good down in the red zone, but outside of that, it's bad, and they need this win bad. This is a win that could determine where their season goes. So you just have to go with the one that's not going to turn the ball over, and that's tough to tell in practice. Both of them should be ready, but I think I lean with the guy that was the number 2 last week in Jake Haener as opposed to Spencer Rattler. But we'll see. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who would you start if you're the Saints? Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler, second-year guy, rookie. Who would you start? Love to hear your thoughts on that. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we are going to finish up our football by taking a look at the NFL Week 5 rookie report. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube. Absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 9th. If you were just tuning in, we just finished going over two rookie quarterbacks that may or were named starters in the NFL for the first time this week. Drake Maye named the starter for the first time in his career after Jacoby Brissett started the first 5 games in New England, and a quarterback controversy between Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler to fill in for Derek Carr down in New Orleans. In this segment, we're going to finish off our football doing our Week 5 NFL rookie report. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a comment with a tip or donation. If you do either, or if you are on YouTube, you can go and use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I appreciate everything you guys have to say. I'll get to it as soon as I possibly can. Thank you for tuning in. But like I was saying, we are going to get into our NFL rookie report here. It has been a good couple of weeks for NFL rookies. Obviously, a couple of them, or more accurately, one big NFL rookie did not end up playing last week due to a concussion, that being Malik Nabers, one who has absolutely dominated the league over there with the New York Giants, been basically the focal point of that offense. Although the Giants were able to escape with a win without Malik Nabers in Seattle. That is a huge win for them. His counterpart at wide receiver, Marvin Harrison, had a little bit of a down week. Still a tight battle between which one of them is the better receiver this season. Marvin Harrison, 2 for 36 in the Arizona Cardinals comeback victory over the San Francisco 49ers. But the real stars of the show, as usual, are the NFL rookie quarterbacks. We have 3 quarterbacks that have started since day one. We already talked about 2 more that could make a start earlier on in the show, but they have each won a start in 2 straight weeks. Bo Nix wins 3 straight games, the first rookie quarterback in Broncos history to do that. They've had a lot of really good rookies, including one named John Elway. He never won 3 straight games his rookie season. I won't say it's all on Bo, but Bo Nix played pretty solid football. 19 for 27, that accuracy, kind of what we expected coming out of college. 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. These guys struggled to throw the ball into the end zone early on in the season, but they were able to get it done. They were able to, move the ball down the field, and Bo Nix looked really solid. I've been a Bo Nix hater. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been a Bo Nix hater. But against the Raiders, so I'm not going to try and draw too much out of this. He looked solid. He looked good. Bo Nix looked like a competent quarterback in the NFL, and maybe I need to tone down on my Bo Nix hate just a little bit. He's won 3 straight games, and that's huge for the Broncos. He's doing what they need him to do, and he's not turning the ball over, most importantly. That's the biggest thing. Once he starts turning the ball over, he's going to need to do more offensively, but as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, that defense is good enough to cover up for him just kind of being mediocre. Then we get the 2 big stars of the draft. Obviously, Jaden Daniels has popped out and really opened the eyes of everybody else around the league. Jaden Daniels has looked awesome. Against the Browns, he threw his second interception in 2 weeks, but still, he was pretty good. His accuracy off a little bit. He's taken a step back from playing against just defenses made of Swiss cheese with holes all over the place when he played the Bengals and the Cardinals, but still 14 for 25, 238 yards and a touchdown with that interception, not including his contributions on the ground, where we got to see Jaden Daniels go for 11 carries and 82 yards. So look at that dual threat ability by him. It's still out there. This is a really good Jaden Daniels performance. It wasn't just short, quick throws. He's been extending the play, looking downfield. He found Terry McLaurin for a beautiful ball down deep, like 60 yards downfield off of a broken play. It was a beautiful pass. I told you, once he did it one more time, I was on the train. I'm all on the Jaden Daniels train. This is a fun train to be on. He's a lot of fun to watch. But the best rookie performer of the week was Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams got a lot of hate at the beginning of the season. We talked about it a little bit in the last segment. He looked really bad to start off the season. Really bad. Really, really bad to start off the season. He couldn't get the ball moving. He was taking too many sacks, held the ball out too long, couldn't push it downfield, wasn't using his weapons. But in these last couple weeks, he looks like he's settled down, gotten it figured out, and it really showed this week. The Bears, again, against the Panthers. I know not the best competition, not the craziest competition, but still, you have a guy who goes 20 for 29, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, and most importantly, no interceptions. That is the most important thing to see out of the Bears, right? Caleb Williams also has a little bit of that dual threat ability, adding 5 for 34 on the ground. I really like Caleb Williams. I know the hate he's getting. I know people are saying he didn't live up to expectations immediately, but he's starting to get to that point that we expected him to be in the NFL. The fact that he's already doing this, he's getting better every single week against NFL level defenses, is incredibly impressive. And I think more praise needs to go to Caleb Williams than he's currently getting. I think there's a real race for Rookie of the Year. I know Jaden Daniels exploded onto the scene. Really did. Blew everybody away. He looks like he looks like a guy that's on top right now. But this week, I think Caleb Williams played better. I really think he did. And no discount to what Jaden Daniels did. I just want to be able to appreciate what Caleb Williams did and what Jaden Daniels did at the same time. Jaden Daniels, the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year for now, should be after what he's done the last couple weeks, but Caleb Williams is on his tail and he's closing the distance. Caleb Williams is getting better every single week. Jaden Daniels is continuing to play elite football. If Jaden Daniels starts to slip down a little bit, it becomes a race. Right now it's his to lose, and I'm not saying he's going to. In fact, I don't think he will. But it's going to become a race down the stretch here because Caleb Williams is starting to play some really good football. That Bears defense is awesome, and they're going to win games, so it's not going to be like he's playing good football on a bad team. That's how it's going to go for both of these teams. As we get down the stretch here, the Bears get the Jags this week, the Commanders get the Ravens. It's a better matchup for Caleb Williams on this one. The Ravens are still a good defense, regardless of what it's looked like for the last couple of weeks, giving up a lot of points each of those last couple of games. This is gonna be a tough one. It really is. But that's where the rookies stand right now. Caleb Williams had the best week, but Jaden Daniels still on top of the offensive rookie report. Rome Odunze had a little bit of a quieter week when we take a look at the wide receivers, the other one of the big ones. He had 5 for 40. Nothing crazy, nothing special to write home about. Was a solid game for him. He's playing against a lot of different weapons. So he's at least outpacing Keenan Allen, and that's a huge get for him where he is in his career. But let me know what you think. Who had the best week this week as a rookie? Who do you think's ahead in the Offensive Rookie of the Year standings so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the things we touched on, anything we talked about. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we are finishing off our show for the next couple segments talking about baseball. The ALDS has been tied up at 1 by both the Tigers and the Royals. The Mets and the Padres take a 2-1 lead after the series went home. We're going to talk about all of that and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 9th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the NFL rookie quarterbacks, the rookie report, as well as quarterbacks that make their first NFL start this Sunday. Drake Maye officially making his first start, overtaking Jacoby Brissett on the depth chart. In this segment, we turn our attention to baseball. It's in the middle of the playoffs right now, and it has been a wild ride. It has been so much fun to watch these couple of series so far. Craziness going on in Cleveland. Craziness going on in New York. We're going to talk about the AL series in just a second, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 9th. But like I was saying, getting into baseball a little bit here, it has been an incredible playoff so far. Lots of stuff going on between the AL opponents. It hasn't been as feisty as it has been in the NL, but we'll get to that in a second. The Tigers and the Royals, after losing each game one, the Tigers getting blown out in game one to the Cleveland Guardians 7-0. A game that outside of the first inning was really close, put their ace Tariq Skubal on the mound for game two. And oh my God, did Skubal deliver. He had a perfect game through nearly 5 innings. He shut down the Tigers. He shut down the Guardians, The Guardians didn't score a single run all game long. They got shut out. In fact, it wasn't just that. The Guardians pitching staff went out there and dominated as well. The Guardians pitching staff, it was 0-0 heading in to the 9th inning. After the Tigers had started to hit against the back half of the Guardians bullpen, they got a couple guys on. They got the bases got runners on the corners. It's a tough one. It really is a tough one. There was a beautiful play made by Steven Kwan to keep the Guardians and Tigers tied at 0 in the top of the 8th inning. A diving catch barely made it. Would have scored a run, possibly 2. Instead, they get out of the inning on that one. A beautiful play by Steven Kwan. That's why he's a Gold Glove winning player. He just does those things. They bring out Emmanuel Clase, a guy who had only given up 6 runs in 5 months. And Kerry Carpenter steps to the plate. The Tigers had done a great job of just poking and prodding all game long, getting guys on the bases, singles, walks, getting on base. Kerry Carpenter hits a ball 110 miles an hour off of the bat, and it flies just over the wall in right field for a 3-run blast off of Emmanuel Clase, the best reliever in all of baseball. A guy that has shut down everyone he has seen all season long. And Kerry Carpenter hits a bomb off of him in the 9th inning to take this game. The Tigers pitched incredible, only giving up 3 hits all game long. They shut them down. That was an incredible game. this is the Tigers team that is just playing with the power of friendship right now, and Tariq Skubal is powering them to victories. They're currently playing right now, as we speak, up 2-0 in the top of the fourth inning. The Tigers are a team that feel like a team of destiny. They've been the hottest team in baseball since August 11th. They've had a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs, and here they are, almost. They have home field advantage in the ALDS, almost to the ALCS. This is the first time in 10 years they've made the playoffs, and Tariq Skubal and that team is powering itself to potentially the ALCS. This is going to be huge. This is a lot of fun to watch. Playoff baseball is crazy this time of year. The other AL series, the Royals and the Yankees. The Yankees took game one pretty handily. The Yankees took game one, won 5-6. It was the most back and forth game in the history of playoff baseball. The lead switched 5 times. That is the record. There were a bunch of weird calls that kind of went the Yankees' way. A bad foul ball call on against the Royals for the Yankees led to the eventual game-winning run. But this game was awesome. Went back and forth. Clay Holmes was able to grab the win. Luke Weaver gets the save. This is one of those games that you look at and you just say, wow. It's playoff baseball. The Royals are playing with everything they have in game one. And in game two, they just shut the Yankees down. They win 4-1. They get home field advantage back against one of the best teams in all of baseball. That is not something that's not something you expected them to do. The Royals are a small market team. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2015. They lost 100 games last year. The Royals, powered by Bobby Witt, powered by that pitching staff, have taken home field advantage back. The AL playoffs are wild, and I cannot wait for a Tigers Royals ALCS. That would be insane. No one in their right minds would have had that down on their bingo card for this year, but that's what we love. We love the chaos. We love the craziness of October baseball, and it's only going to get crazier. In our next segment, we're going to break down everything that's going on in the NLDS. 3 games in, there is so much animosity, so much passion in the NL side of things. We're going to break all of that down coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 9th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the AL playoffs so far in the MLB. It has been insane to watch. The Tigers with an improbable win, homering off of Emmanuel Clase, a guy who has been near unhittable all season long. The Royals tying up the series with the Yankees after a back-and-forth game 1. They dominate in game 2. Can we get a Royals Tigers ALCS? That would be super fun to see. In this segment, we're going to take a look at the NL side of things. It's been just as, if not more crazy in that side of the bracket. The NL bracket is wild. The Padres. We have two divisional matchups, the Padres and the Dodgers, and the Phillies and the Mets. And as you might expect, divisional matchups in the playoffs get heated. We'll talk about all of that in a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it, or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. But like I was saying, we're going to get into the NL just a little bit here. The Mets and the Padres, both the non-favorites in these series, have taken the leads 2-1. They can both clinch a spot in the NLCS tonight. These are both divisional matchups that have been insane. They have delivered every single bit of hype and showdowns that we have expected them to have. Starting off with the Mets and the Phillies. The Mets and the Phillies have gone back and forth. Game 1, the Phillies starter puts up an absolute gem, an absolute magical game, holding the Mets to just 1 for 21. 1 for 21 all game through the 8th inning. The Phillies are up 1-0 in this game. Zach Wheeler goes 7 innings, only allows 1 hit, 9 strikeouts. He absolutely destroyed. Then they turned it over to the bullpen. And the Mets said, oh yeah, I remember how to hit again. And they proceeded in the 8th inning to put up 5 runs. 5 runs in the 8th innings, each of them just poking a little bit at a time. Single, 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 walk, single, sac fly, single, walk, sac fly. Just poking. Death by 1,000 needles were the Phillies in Game 1. That is a brutal way to lose, wasting an incredible start by Zach Wheeler. That's what got you this far in the playoffs. That's what you expect. The Mets, for their side, pitched great. Kodai Senga was only able to go 2 innings, giving up that 1 home run to Kyle Schwarber, a leadoff home run in that game. But then the Mets bullpen absolutely locked it down. They went the next 6 innings without allowing another run. Then in the 9th, they gave up 1 to cut the lead to 6-2. But at that point, it was just make it look a little better. That was a huge game for the Mets. In Game 2, it was the opposite story. Game 2, the Mets up big. They were up 3-0 in the 6th inning before Bryce Harper hit an absolute laser to center field. Destroyed that baseball, tied it up at 3 in that game. But then Brandon Nimmo answered back immediately, gave the Mets a lead. It only held for 1 inning. Because in the bottom of the 8th inning, down by 1, Bryson Stott, with the bases nearly full, tripled. 2-run score. The Phillies take the lead back and forth we go. Then Bryson Stott was brought in on a fielder's choice. Huge play by the Phillies. They are up 2 heading into the 9th inning, but the Mets were not done. They said, Mark Vientos, hit your 2nd home run of the game. Ties the game up at 6. His 2nd 2-run shot of the game. The rookie is having an incredible postseason, Mark Vientos is having. But the Phillies, they got their heart broken in Game 1. They said, no, we're not going out like that. there was just a hurricane. Nick Castellanos hits a single to walk off the game. The Phillies break the Mets' heart. Instead of going up 2-2, it's 1-1 as the series heads back to New York. They've both broken each other's hearts. It was 2 back-to-back back-breaking losses by each of these teams to each other. And now it's just how do these teams respond? And yesterday, we got that answer. The Phillies and the Mets went out there, and the Mets just dominated that game. Pete Alonso hit another home run in this postseason, not as big as the one he was able to hit at the end of the series in Milwaukee to get them to where they are right now. But not only did he home run, Jesse Winker hit a homer. Jesse Winker, the pickup from the Washington Nationals at the trade deadline. He has been huge as an emotional kind of leader in that clubhouse, getting the fans fired up. He's been really good at that. Even when he was on the Nats this season, a bad team, he was very good at getting it going. The Phillies just dominated this game. They were up 6-0 in the 7th, and at this point, the Phillies had nothing they could do. They tried their best to get back into it, but everything was clicking for the Phillies, for the Mets. And the Mets took a 7-2 lead. They win this game 7-2. Game 4 is today. The Phillies on the brink of elimination. You've got Ranger Suarez versus Jose Quintana. Both of these pitchers have been awesome so far this season. Jose Quintana, 0 ERA in the playoffs. Ranger Suarez has been great. He's one of the best lefties in the game. He started off as one of the hottest pitchers in the game, was up there for the Cy Young before cooling down just a little bit. This is the game the Phillies need to win, and they're throwing out some of their big guns. This is one of their big 3. I think the Phillies get this done, heads back to Philadelphia for a decisive Game 5. But this should be a lot of fun. Both of these teams are kind of clicking on all cylinders. It's been back and forth. If the Phillies can't get their bats going early, they're going to be in trouble. That's what happens in both of the games they've lost, and Quintana has been really good for the Mets all season long. So maybe the Mets can just jump on the Phillies early, but this is going to be a tough game. The other NL series, the San Diego Padres host the LA Dodgers in what has been the wackiest, wildest series of them all. In Game 1, an offensive explosion early. We saw Shohei Ohtani in his second plate appearance ever in October hit an absolute bomb. He is no different in October. He said he wasn't scared. He said the lights weren't too bright, and he was right. He absolutely was ready for this moment. The Dodgers take Game 1 in back and forth fashion. It was a great game to watch. Both of these offenses were clicking. And then in Game 2, stuff went down. First inning, Mookie Betts hits a home run. Or was it? Turns out Jurickson Profar robs the home run from Mookie Betts, absolutely steals the ball basically out of a fan's hands, and pretends like he doesn't catch it. Lets Mookie Betts get all the way to his shortstop position before saying, yep, guys, I've got the baseball right here, not a home run. And that set the tone for the rest of the game. That kind of trolling, that kind of playing with the opponent's mind is how this game went. The Padres absolutely raked. Fernando Tatis hit a massive home run. They're up 3-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning when Tatis gets hit by a pitch. Manny Machado thinks that's on purpose. Doesn't make sense for it to be on purpose. It probably wasn't on purpose. But him and Jack Flaherty get into a fight. Jack Flaherty strikes him out. Manny Machado plays third. He continues talking in the next inning. And then the fans get involved. The fans start throwing stuff on the field. Stuff at Jurickson Profar. Stuff at Fernando Tatis. They start throwing stuff into the bullpen. The game has to be stopped. Yu Darvish, in the middle of throwing a gem, is in danger of losing all his momentum. I think it's a little bit of a shameful thing to do as fans, if I'm being completely honest. I kind of hate the move. It didn't end up working. Manny Machado gives a passionate speech in the dugout during this delay, and they go off. By the time the smoke clears, the Padres have scored 10 runs, have hit 6 home runs, and have absolutely demoralized the Dodgers. Game 3 back in San Diego. This is a huge, huge game for the Padres. They win this, they're a win away from the NLCS. Second time they would have beaten the Dodgers to get there. That is a huge accomplishment for them. They go out there, and this game starts off bad for them. It really does. Yesterday, we saw the Dodgers really explode in the first inning. They put up Mookie Betts in the first inning, does the same thing. Homer to left field. Jurickson Profar reaches out, isn't able to make the catch this time. Jurickson Profar not able to make the catch. Mookie Betts rounds the bases. They're up 1-0. But the Padres, not one to get shown up in their own ballpark, put up not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 runs in the second inning. And that's all they were going to need. 6 runs in the second inning. Another monster home run from Fernando Tatis Jr. He has been on a tear this postseason. It's almost unfair what he's been able to do to baseballs so far, just crushing them. But the Dodgers say, you know what? We're not out of it. Because Teoscar Hernandez hits a grand slam in the third inning, responding. It's now 6-5. These teams have gone crazy in the first 3 innings. The second time they've combined for 11 runs in the first half of the ball game in just 3 games this series. This time, though, both teams lock down. Not another run is scored for the rest of the game. 6-5, the final score. That Padres bullpen is awesome. That back half is incredible. Jason Adam, Tanner Scott, Robert Suarez, excuse me. Sorry about that. It's been awesome. They have been able to shut down every single opponent that they have seen, and I cannot wait to see the Padres play again tonight. This is a huge matchup. Again, potentially to send them to the NLCS. Dylan Cease, the guy they got from the White Sox, the guy who threw a no-hitter earlier on this season, versus probably a opener for the Dodgers. They haven't decided who is starting yet, but the Padres are in a great position to escape at home, advance to the NLCS against maybe even the Mets today. We will find out, but it should be a lot of fun. Baseball is back. I think the Phillies win. I think the Padres win. I think the Tigers win, and I think the Yankees win today. Let's see what happens, though. I cannot wait for more playoff baseball. It has been a wild ride so far, and it should be so much fun to watch the rest of the way. Let me know what you think is going to happen today in baseball. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning into today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We'll be back tomorrow, previewing Thursday Night Football, doing a little bit of college football talk, and of course, talking about these baseball games that are taking place right now. So make sure you tune in same time, same place for that, and I will see you then. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.